This is Making the Case. I'm Sharon Reed in for Yodit Tewolde. We're going to talk about the R. Kelly trial. That's coming up in just a few minutes. But first, a critical showdown. It's over the right to vote. It is happening right now in Washington. 56 years ago today, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was signed into law. Advocates say recent U.S. Supreme Court decisions have essentially gutted that act, and that if state legislation like what's proposed down in Texas designed to restrict voting rights is allowed to pass, the Voting Rights Act will become almost meaningless. Dozens of protesters were arrested today at the D.C. airport. Others rallied in Los Angeles, all calling for Congress and President Biden to take more aggressive action to protect our right to vote. In Texas, Republican Governor Greg Abbott ordered another special session to begin tomorrow to pass the bill designed to restrict access to voting. Governor Abbott still threatening to arrest those lawmakers who don't show up to vote. The Texas Democrats, though, remain holed up in D.C. They're defiant. They say they will stay there where they're free from the jurisdiction of the Texas Rangers. So joining us tonight, Texas State Rep Jarvis Johnson is back. He's a Democrat representing part of the Houston area. So welcome back to Making the Case, Representative Johnson. Last time you were here, you got a critical question. What is in the bill that is so important to block, so important that you're willing to spend weeks away from your family, risk arrest when you return? Why is it so critical?
The Republicans are put forth an unnecessary bill. They're building it on a big lie, but more importantly, it criminalizes voting, essentially. And they're using this bill as a bullying tactic to cause chaos and confusion within our polling systems. But then weaponizing poll watchers. Poll watchers can be used, partisan poll watchers can go into polls and intimidate, bully, and just cause destruction within those polls by being able to look over the shoulder of a voter and to actually see how they're casting their ballot. That's the one area that we all know that we hold dear and dear is our opportunity to vote, but then certainly to keep it a secret if we like. No one should be able to stand over our shoulder and ask questions, and so they've weaponized a bill like this to thwart the efforts of Democrats, in particular Black Democrats, that they know are the swing vote in many elections.
And so when you talk about the bullying tactics, intimidation, Governor Abbott is among those who is kind of pressing on here. He says he's going to keep calling these special sessions to, quote, uphold election integrity. So what are Texas Democrats going to do? I guess essentially, how long can you wait him out and stay out of state?
As long as the governor wants to try to pass this very suppressive bill, as long as we will stay out. The fight is bigger than any of us. As you just mentioned, today is the anniversary of the passing of the Voting Rights Bill of 1965. And here we stand in 2021 having to do the same thing over again. And that's just absolutely absurd that we're going in reverse. And so we can stay out as long as we have to, because I, as a Black man in Texas, have the ability of being a state representative simply because those that came before me sacrificed themselves, sacrificed their jobs, sacrificed their own livelihoods, and many sacrificed their own lives so that we have this opportunity. And I won't allow a governor like Abbott just to simply have this showmanship governance to decide that he wants to call session after session, thinking that he's going to make us or bully us into changing our minds by putting other things on the call that certainly he could have gotten passed in the regular session, but they absolutely did not. We've been fighting for Medicaid expansion. We've been fighting for cost of living increase for our teachers. We've been fighting for a 13th check. We've been fighting for the CPS system to get better. But the governor has always refused to listen to those cries and hear those bills. And so now here he is trying to bully us into coming back and doing work. And the fact that he hasn't even sat down at the table to talk, to negotiate, to see where we may have middle ground, that we can come to a compromise is certainly his inability to govern and just simply wants to be a bully and pander to his base for his reelection and then potentially his run at the presidency.
Well, Representative, I want to ask you, you used the word negotiation. I was a bit trepid, right? I wasn't sure I wanted to use that word because with what's at stake here, many would argue there can be no negotiation here. You just can't do it. But the last time you were here, I know you said that communication between the Texas Democrats, your Republican counterparts, Governor Abbott, that broke down. Where are we tonight? Are you talking at all?
There's been any communication, and that seems to be the problem. The Republicans want to pander to their base by constantly trying to push what they call voter integrity. There is nothing about this bill that offers integrity. Everything about this bill spells suppression. Everything about this bill is partisan, and we've watched them do this. Matter of fact, as I've said before, the Secretary of State has said that Texas has a fair and secure election. Republicans even themselves have said that the election in Texas are fair and secure. So the question has to be, then why are you putting forth this bill? Why are you asking and using these tactics to try to thwart the efforts of those that want to vote in a free and fair, transparent system without having to suppress them? And that's exactly what they are doing. And so we've asked to sit at the table. We've asked to talk. Well, but there's been no communication.
So if there's not even a back channel down there in Texas, how about D.C.? You need Congress. You need President Biden. And there's been criticism, too, that they've got to do more. The filibuster, all of it. Where does that stand tonight?
The needle has been moved. We do know, based on our action, that the Senate has absolutely begun to pay attention. There's been rumors that there's a new bill that is being written, and so we are excited that we know that that we've gotten the attention. But yes, the president needs to make this priority number one. The president has already said it himself. He knows who this bill is targeted, and the people that are targeted in this bill are the very people that got him elected. And so we must stand strong ourselves as Black Americans, but then hold the president accountable so that we can make sure that we can pass this bill so that we don't have to go back to Texas with this suppressive bill over our heads.
I want to put up a statement from President Biden. 56 years ago, he marked the Voting Rights Act, and I want you to react and tell me if you all have, any plans to meet face-to-face with the president. And there it is. 56 years ago today, our nation passed the Voting Rights Act and took a big step forward in our pursuit of a more perfect union. But half a century later, voting rights are under attack. We've got to pass federal legislation to protect what he calls, finishing up the statement, the sacred right to vote. Will you meet with him? And then final question to you, what about your own families? Because this has gone on for weeks and weeks, no end in sight.
Absolutely, we'll meet with the president. We certainly have to meet with the president. He has to make this a top priority. He has to put this at the top of the agenda and put the full weight of the office behind it. We can't continue just to pass the ball and say it's someone else's responsibility. The president needs to use every tool that he has in order to get this passed. And respect our families. I speak to my family, I talk to my children, speak to my mother. As you know, I recently buried my father, but at the end of the day, this is the fight that they have encouraged me to continue. Because had it not been for their encouragement, had it not been for their well wishes and their love, then certainly I don't know where I would be. But at the end of the day, again, I stand on the shoulders of giants. My mother was in this fight, in this civil rights movement when she was growing up. And so I want to make sure that my son and my daughter don't have to go through another civil rights movement, that this bill and will be killed, and we can certainly offer the For the People's Act so that every citizen in this country can feel like they're American citizens and not second-class citizens, as this bill for Texas would make many of us, because we won't have the right or ability to vote and vote for people that we choose, as opposed to what the Republicans are trying to do, is to choose the people.
Well, Representative Johnson, our condolences again for the loss of your father. Surely, like your mother, he's proud that you're staying in the fight. We appreciate you, and do come back as much as you need to and let us get an update from you. Thank you, Representative Johnson. Be well.